Yo, it's good. It's your man, 100 grand Ross, but the rock never stops. Jonathan Kuminga needs to demand a trade. I want to dive into that in this video. If you enjoy it, smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Look, let me just start off by saying I am of the players' empowerment ilk. I am amongst the believers that the worker, the one who puts their body on the line, the one who is in the trenches, who bleeds, who gets the injuries, who gives the effort, who has to train for months just before training camp begins to be ready for preseason, to have a good regular season with hopes of the playoffs, who dedicates their lives to sports and entertainment. I am of the ilk that they deserve to be empowered. Matter of fact, I believe they deserve to have an unlimited cap. Now, baseball has no salary cap, and they're doing just fine. Major League Soccer, the number one sport in the world, has no salary cap. And they're doing just fine. They're thriving as the number one sport in the world. And yet somehow in America, in the United States of America, we believe that we should incentivize inept team governors, previously known as team owners, to be able to put a cap to make sure that they can profit astronomically, whether or not they make good decisions or not. Which brings me to the point of most of the reasons why your team suck is because of people in suits, not because of the people wearing shorts. But I digress. Jonathan Kuminga needs to request a trade because Jonathan Kuminga is at the start of a highly promising career. At 6'8", 220 pounds, with a 40-inch vertical, over 7-foot wingspan, lightning quick first step, great agility, natural man strength at a young age, the maturity to bypass college and to join the G League Ignite and compete against grown men, essentially NCAA All-Stars, and dominate. To be drafted by the Golden State Warriors and told year after year to wait your turn, to hold on. Your time will come. You need to grow more. You need to develop more. While he watches his team bring in other players, he watches them bring in Chris Paul. He watches them bring in Dario Saric. He watches them play Andrew Wiggins. And I'm not even saying any of these are bad moves. What I'm pointing to is that the organization, for the sake of winning and building around Stephen Curry and maximizing his era of winning within this dynasty period, has decided to invest elsewhere than the business of Jonathan Kuminga. And after now going on 3 years, he should have had enough. This is not because he doesn't want to win. It's not because he's not competitive. It's not because he just doesn't get it. It's because he should understand that this is a business. Your body and its ability to be able to maintain the pace, the marathon that is an NBA season, year after year after year, is not guaranteed. There is no guarantee you don't blow out your knee tomorrow. Knock on wood. There is no guarantee you don't have a back injury. There's no guarantee. Look at how many stars quickly go downhill after one injury. Kawhi Leonard, Dwight Howard, Steve Nash. When your body gives up, Chris Paul. That's it. But here he is still on his rookie deal. And some of you might think, hey, you know what? He's still at the beginning. He's got plenty of time. Do you guys remember a player by the name of Anthony Randolph, drafted by the Golden State Warriors? Anthony Randolph was a 6'11", agile forward, kind of slight build. He was a lefty, really good touch, could shoot the ball, really agile to play on the perimeter, really good footwork, but he did not fit the mold of what they thought he was supposed to be. which was an interior big man, to be able to bang against the likes of Eric Dampier and Donald Foyle, and Shaquille O'Neal was still in the league, and they had big guys, big boys, and they wanted him to be one of them. Well, if you reflect on his skill set and his body type, today he'd be a max salary player. Today they would be looking at him as somewhere between Porzingis, Giannis, Kevin Durant, much how they look at Chet Holmgren, Anthony Davis, where they look at your body type alone and they say we should invest in him. Perspective is the point. Perspective. And the perspective of your organization can drastically affect your career. Last I checked, Anthony Randolph did not get extended by the Golden State Warriors to a max deal. Last I saw of Anthony Randolph, he was playing for Slovenia in the World Games, helping them to actually win World Game Championship with Luka Doncic and Goran the Dragon Dragic. And he looked good. He looked great. 6'11", he could block shots, he could run the court. He was able to knock down threes, set screens, pick and roll, pick and pop. He looked like everything you would want from a prototypical NBA forward. Past his prime, though. He's never going to get another shot in the NBA. Perspective. His earning potential went from tens of millions, potentially hundreds of millions over the course of a career in the NBA to maybe single millions. Now, some of y'all might say, hey, you know what? What are we complaining about millions for? Well, let's fast forward to Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga comes from the Congo. I don't know how many of you all are familiar with what is taking place in the Congo, but right now in the Congo, slavery is still highly in existence. Mining for minerals, especially the minerals that we use in our laptops, smartphones, MacBooks, iPads. Mining for those minerals, there are children 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, who are the only ones who could fit into these narrow caves, are being forced to work against their will or for pennies with a life expectancy of only 4 to 6 years in the mines so that we can enjoy the luxuries that we have. This is where he comes from. His family came to the United States late in his life in comparison to most players. He picked up the game and began to dominate and look promising. What he does with his resources means and looks a whole lot different than a lot of us who grew up here in the privilege of the United States of America. That, in fact, we privilege largely from the suffering of his community, of his country, of his people. When we start trying to put someone else's destiny in someone else's hands, that's when we've stepped over the line and we've gone awry. Steve Kerr has failed to develop Jonathan Kuminga. Not just Jonathan Kuminga, but Moses Moody. He's failed to develop James Wiseman. He's failed to put in the X's and O's and the strategy in place. He's failed to maximize the talent of players who have been elite talents of their draft classes. And not just elite talents, I mean the best of the best. Lottery picks. Players that other teams would have clamored for, wanted to trade up for, to get for an opportunity to develop them. The Golden State Warriors have had them or have them currently on their roster. And apparently, Steve Kerr prefers Brandon Podziemski and Trace Jackson Davis. Now, to each his own. But what does that mean for Jonathan Kuminga? Can he continue to sit around and wait for Steve Kerr to feel like playing him over Andrew Wiggins? I just checked his last 3 games, shooting over 50% from the field, close to 35, if not 40% from the three-point line. And yet he can't crack 30 minutes. Andrew Wiggins continues to play as he continues to struggle. Klay Thompson figuring himself out, getting every opportunity to keep putting up shots, chucking away to the demise of the team. Getting all the slack and leeway of a champion as they should. I'm not even mad at that. Not even mad at the Wiggins minutes, the Draymond Green minutes. I'm not mad at any of the minutes to that starting five that has won a championship or been around for all four. But what I am decided upon is that it's time for Kuminga to go. It's time for him to take his destiny in his own hands, as he always has, from deciding to bypass playing in the NCAA, which at the time did not have the NIL deals and ability for him to maximize his earning potential coming out of high school. And so he goes to the G League. He needs to continue to keep his destiny in his own hands and demand a trade. Because there's teams like Indiana. There are teams out there like Atlanta. There are teams out there like Washington. There are teams out there like Toronto. There are teams out there like the Pistons, like the Nets. I can't think of a single team that could not use his services. Somebody was going over his stats recently, and they looked at that over the month of December, he was averaging, I want to say, close to 24 minutes a game, 24 to 26 minutes a game. And he was averaging 16 plus points per game. And if he was getting 35 plus points per game, if he was getting 35 minutes per game, he would be averaging over 20 points a game. Do you know what that means for him? He is eligible for an extension this summer. And despite his being a professional, doing everything the organization has asked him to do, waiting his time, can't seem to get an opportunity despite his glowing potential being actualized. It's time for Jonathan Kuminga to ask for a trade. But as always, I want to know what you all think about this subject topic. If you agree, disagree, get at me in the comment section. I would appreciate the likes, subscribes, and the bell for notifications of upcoming videos. I try to post regularly. I'm going to get at y'all with some more videos because my man Moses Moody probably needs to follow his lead too. I'm going to get at y'all later. Peace.